This here is a viewer's recent PC build. It boasts a Ryzen 5 5600X, an Asus 3060 Ti, and I believe 16 gigs of DDR4 in a Montec case with airflow prioritized. Now you might be wondering, what on earth am I doing with this build? Well, first off, the owner happened to live in the Orlando, Florida area, which is nice. I could meet him in person. He's having issues. He just built this system, right? And it's not posting. And if it does post, he said he got it to post one time, but then he wasn't getting any video out, and his motherboard was throwing the VGA error. Oh, the VGA error is an awful one to deal with. So I told him I would give it a shot, try to troubleshoot. I have tons of parts here that I can swap out with. It's always nice to have extra parts to swap because that'll pretty much narrow down what the issue is, at least at large. There might be a specific issue on the board of said component that is actually causing the problem that you're experiencing, but at the end of the day, I could at least narrow it down to the part. So which part is the problem? Which one do you need to RMA or file a warranty claim for, whatever. So I told him I would do that for him. We're gonna figure out what is wrong with this build in this video. Also, want to take care of a few cable management issues, just a few things. I mean, I'm being kind of picky here. He actually did a pretty good job, but he told me that behind the motherboard tray, that's where it gets messy. So we're going to tackle the posting problem, what is causing the system not to boot properly, and then we're going to tackle cable management. All right, stay with me. To get rid of that annoying activation watermark, hop on over to VIP SCD Key and purchase a Windows 10 Pro OEM key for fractions of the price of retail. Just use a secure payment method like PayPal, receive your key in seconds, and activate your OS here. Bye-bye watermark. And be sure to use our new offer code SKGS for a sweet discount. Now the first thing you'll want to do in a situation like this is replicate the issue, especially if you don't have first-hand experience with what's going on here, which I don't. I've only just heard what was happening to the system. I have not seen it happen in person. So we're gonna power it on and we're gonna see what happens. So the system is lit up. Checking for picture because he said that was the most recent issue he was having right before he dropped it off. Yep, we're not getting any picture. Now it'd be a bit difficult to see with this camera angle, I understand that, but there are a series of LEDs over here just to the right of the DIMM slots, and the LED that's lit up right now is for VGA, and that is obviously our video cards, referring to the video card, video out, and that's the problem. The thing is, I don't think that this 3060 Ti is dead. So it is lighting up here, so it is receiving some power. I'm not sure if it's receiving power through the 8-pin supplemental cable or not, but it's definitely receiving power through the PCIe slot. The fans, I'm looking down below, the fans aren't turning, but I think this is one of those 0 RPM cards where if it's not under load, the fans won't turn. Now, interestingly enough, down here at the bottom of the board, Dr. Debug code AA indicates that the system should actually post. It should be showing something on screen right now, so there's no inherent issue with the way the system is set up, but we do have that conflicting LED again at the top right of the board, signaling that there's something wrong with the video card. So based on what I've seen so far, the next thing I'm gonna do is swap this card out with one that I know works. I'm gonna pull it from a working system, I'm gonna power the system on with that new card in here and see if we get a post. If we do, then we've narrowed it down at least to the graphics card. Might be an issue with the HDMI cable based on the other indications I'm getting from this board, so we'll try different ports once we've kind of narrowed it down to this piece of hardware. So we're going to disconnect this 8-pin here, slide this old card out. When you're doing this, by the way, you want to make sure that your system is fully powered off, disconnected from the wall, and that you've drained any capacitors by holding down that power button. After it's been disconnected for about 10 or so seconds, LEDs should all be shut off. That's when you're good to work on your system. So we've got the old card out. I'm going to slide this new card in here. Now, this is actually a GTX 1660 from Gigabyte. Uses a similar supplemental 8-pin, so no wiring conflicts there. I'm not even going to bolt it to the case. We just need to connect it real quick, power the system back on, and see if she posts what is going on with this cable. And we're going to power it back on. Let's see if we get any LEDs up top. That's interesting. We're getting the exact same VGA LED up top. Card's lit up, fans are spinning. The card itself is fine. I know this card works. So I think that's good news. I mean, in light of how expensive a lot of these newer graphics cards are nowadays, I think it's safe to say that this 3060 Ti here is not the problem. And this is probably the most expensive component in this build. So that's good news. I'm concerned now if it's this graphics card, maybe this uppermost PCIe slot. I mean, the card is in there. Now, the next thing on my list with the original card back in the system will be to reset CMOS. So maybe there's some motherboard software conflict, some just weird juju that's getting in the way here. I've seen clear CMOS buttons fix the strangest of problems. So we're gonna turn the system back on. I'm gonna hold this BIOS button down. Okay, and I decided to reset the system one more time after that BIOS reset, and the LED indicator has changed. It is no longer lighting up next to the VGA line, it's lighting up next to the DRAM line, suggesting that there's now a problem with DRAM. You know, I really hope it's not this motherboard. It's gonna be a pain to take everything out of this. So we've powered up the system. I'm gonna pull these sticks of RAM out. I'm just gonna leave one stick in slot 2. And that's it. And we're gonna see if we can get around that DRAM problem. DRAM is lit, looks good. All right, moved on from DRAM. And we're back to the VGA light issue. Oh no, back to DRAM again. What is going on? Oh no, I guess it's just training memory. I think that it freaked out when I swapped modules. So Dr. Debug down at the bottom. We're at 9C right now, A0. Yep, it's cycling through. Still no picture on screen. Should switch to AA there at the bottom. Oh no, we've got a light that says boot. What is this? Wait, so why don't we have a picture then? Where's our picture? That boot light wasn't on before. Why is there no picture? Look, just so you guys are seeing the same thing I'm seeing, that boot light up top, that's a green light, whereas the VGA light is white. So we're still getting that white VGA light, which isn't good. We're not supposed to get that, I don't think. But that green light up top there, that wasn't on before. So switching to just one dim, fix that. That's weird. But okay, that code shouldn't be there. As far as I know, 02 indicates an issue with, I believe, storage device? So I'm gonna go to the back of the system. I'm gonna double check all of his connections, his power cables and the like. I'm kind of surprised that we're getting so many conflicting signals from this board, but yeah, something's fishy. Okay, so I checked all of his connections back here. They look pretty solid. This power supply is non-modular, so there's really nothing I can do on that end. But the one thing I did notice is that his hard drive is powered via SATA, but it's not SATA data cable connected, which means that his hard drive's getting power for some reason, but it's not actually doing anything. So I'm gonna connect this SATA cable. I would be very surprised if this was the issue, but I've seen weirder things in this industry, so let's give it a shot. No more 02 code, so that's cool. We're back to Dr. Debug code AA, which means the system should be, it should be posting. I'm running out of idea. I gotta swap the motherboard. That's all I can think of at this point. Swap the motherboard, reseat the CPU. What else is there? We're also missing that boot LED now. I'm gonna try taking out that second dim again and see if that fixes that. All right, there's only one more thing I can think of before we resort to it being a motherboard or CPU issue. And those troubleshooting steps are gonna be a bit more time consuming. I'm gonna slide this thing into the bottom. I guess this will kind of narrow down the slot issue. I'm moving this into the next highest 16 lane. Actually, no, it's only an 8 lane slot, but it's a full length PCIe slot. I'm gonna reconnect here. This is really cringe. I apologize. I know this is gonna it's gonna bother some folks, but I've got to do it just to narrow down the edge. I'm gonna hold the card up too because there's some cables underneath that I don't want to get snagged in that graphics card's fan shroud. And reconnect, and power on. Just to see. I can't even see Dr. Debug now. No way. No way. That was it. Are you serious? It's a dead PCIe slot. Why else would it work here but not at the uppermost slot? What the heck? Is that on camera? Look at that. We get a post. This thing is freaking out because we've reset it so many times, but this is the first time we've actually gotten a display out, like an image on a screen from this build since we started troubleshooting. Now, I sure as heck don't want to hold this card up myself, and I think it looks really stupid down here at this lower full-length PCIe slot. So what I think we're gonna have to do is swap motherboards. Now, just for a sanity check, I'm gonna swap back to his kit of RAM. His kit's actually better than this kit here, so I definitely don't want to swap them out if I don't have to. I'm gonna put these back in their original slots. Yep, there we go. So definitely not the RAM, it's not the DIMM slots themselves, it's not the graphics card, it's not the CPU. We're getting a post here. It is that uppermost PCIe slot, the full length slot, the 16-lane slot. What the heck? Now I feel bad because in order to test this, I had to remove these two lower PCIe slot covers. Normally wouldn't be a problem, but these are the ones that are like fixed in position, and if you remove them, you can't reinsert them. So he's gonna have a weird gap down there. I could have used a riser card, but I didn't have one on hand. Most of those are in systems currently. But I do have a solution. I think it'll kind of make up for this here. I'm gonna get a system fully working because I have the exact same board as the one that's in this build. So if you guys remember, a few months ago, I released a video about how to update your AMD build's BIOS without an AMD CPU installed. And this applied to those who maybe wanted a I don't know, Ryzen 5 5600X, maybe like this person here, bought a B550 board, but that B550 board doesn't have the native BIOS needed to get 5600Xs to post. You can actually flash boards like this. You can update the BIOSes without CPUs installed, which means you don't need a Zen 2 or a Zen Plus or an original Zen CPU installed to do that. And most don't have multiple CPUs laying around. So that video actually was super helpful for a lot of people. I'm glad I uploaded it. And this is the board that I used to demonstrate, kind of did the tutorial. So yeah, I'm just gonna swap this one out with the one in here, and I believe it's the exact same board. So he won't even know that I changed anything. I'm gonna tell him that I swapped the boards, but I got this sent from ASUS a while back, and it just kind of sits in the closet. So more than happy to give him this swap here, so at least he can use his beautiful rig. So for this process, we have to remove not only the CPU and the RAM, but also the M.2 SSD he has in here. He told me he had one of these. Don't want to forget that. It's the only drive in the system. So first off, gonna remove this stock cooler. Always kind of sort of a pain. Give it a little wiggle. System really couldn't heat up too much. And there we go. You know, now that I've had a bit more time to think about it, I'm just looking at the slot on both of these boards. I don't think the slot itself I don't think there's any real physical damage here. I think this goes back to possibly a setting in the BIOS. I've run into this once before, and I don't know why just now I'm thinking about it. But there have been issues reported where the board will default to PCIe Gen 4 or vice versa, PCIe Gen 3 for a Gen 4 card, and the fix is always to swap to the opposite of that. So if this board has PCIe Gen 4 enabled by default, which might have happened when this viewer updated this BIOS, that I've read online, and I've actually witnessed this once with one board that I have, that can prevent your card from properly sending out video signal. So I'll probably follow up in a separate video with that. I'm still gonna swap boards because I know that my board, which is again the same as his, but this is one I've used for a few other videos. I know this works with Gen 4 and Gen 3 cards the way that it's set up now. So even with, you know, I don't really know. Case in point, you know, if I really wanted to be picky here and dive even deeper, I could probably figure out what was wrong with this board, you know, on the software level. But just looking at the hardware, I mean, we know the motherboard's at fault, but what specifically about the motherboard is wrong? That is the ultimate question. I just don't really have time to diagnose all that. This viewer wants the system back tomorrow. So I kind of have no choice there. I want to, you know, I want to give him a working system. So I'm just going to swap boards for now. I'm going to keep this board though, his board, and I'm going to see if I can fix it. Might swap CPUs around, and then if I can get into the BIOS, which apparently I can if I put this card in the lower 16 or well, the lower full-length, full-size slot, I should say, because that's only an 8X slot or X8 slot. Then if I get in the BIOS, I think I can change the 16-lane generation from 3 to 4 or from 4 to 3. I think that'll fix it. But yeah, separate video for that. Just want to get this guy's system ready to go. He just built it. I feel bad that it's not working for him. So I'm glad that we found at least a quick fix for him. And with everything swapped over, slide the new board back into this build. Try to keep it out of range of a lot of these wires I've left in here. Motherboard swaps are the freaking worst. They're just like the most work all across the board. And all right, now for cable management, a couple things I did right off the bat that really make a difference here, because he had his fan cable just kind of like hanging here, plugging straight in, not routed at all. Same goes for the RGB cable. So I took that fan cable, very easy to do, especially if I cut out up top for 8-pin EPS for CPU power. Just run that fan cable behind there. And this one's long enough, I could run it behind the motherboard tray, connected to this fan header down here. So That fan cable is totally out of sight now, looks a lot cleaner. As for the RGB cable, this one it's a bit tricky to deal with these thicker cables here that come with these AMD stock coolers. What I did in this case was run it actually kind of along the kind of heat sinks. I guess this is a chipset heatsink here, and then the M.2 heat sinks. Both of these actually ran the cable underneath the bottom one. You can see it just passes, if I can get out of the way of the light here, passes right underneath this bottom M.2 heatsink, which works out, especially on these newer boards, have a lot of heat sinks you can kind of play around with. Get those cables running underneath there. Gonna look very subdued, especially once the graphics card is in. You won't even know that cable's back there. Looks totally hidden. Much cleaner cable management overall. And as for right side cable management, this is more or less what it looked like before, just kind of a rat's nest, didn't use any zip ties or anything. And this is what it looks like after. I mean, it's not like, the perfect cable management setup ever. In a case like this, it's kind of difficult, and with a non-modular power supply, okay, these are excuses. At the end of the day, it still does definitely look better than what it looked like when it first came into the office, and that's pretty much all I was going for. Last thing we need to do then is throw the graphics card back in. Wire it up. There we go. Much better. And now we just need to see if this thing posts. I will look like a mega doofus if it does not. We'll swap the motherboard for nothing. Everything's lighting up. Dr. Debug showing up there. All right, it is looking good. Yep, there we go. VGA light is gone. We have the green boot LED. Got my keyboard here. Go ahead and press F1. And what I'm gonna do is reinstall the operating system for him. He told me that he was in the middle of doing that when everything kind of screwed up on him. So I'm going to reinstall it on his M.2 drive just to be safe, so that when he gets a hold of it, he'll just be able to log in with his credentials and have a fully functioning system. So see, this is a screen here that I'm kind of worried about. I think this may have been what went wrong with his motherboard. And again, I'll confirm this in a separate video, so stay tuned for that. But there is a window in the Advanced tab of this UEFI that allows you to change PCIe generation. So the uppermost 16-lane slot, you can see this one here. If I click on it and swing down, I can select Gen 4 manually, or I can select Gen 3 manually, or I could just keep it on auto. This board is set to auto and everything appears to be functioning fine. So I'm curious if his board has the same setting set to PCIe 4 or maybe set to PCIe 3. These are PCIe 4 capable cards, even though the 3060 Ti is not going to fully saturate Gen 4 bandwidth. It is still a Gen 4 capable card, so there could be conflicts there. And again, I've run into this issue with only one board of all the boards I've tested in the AMD AM4 lineup. But I will look into this further. I'm going to leave things as is for his build because it's working as is. I don't want to change anything and screw it all back up. So yeah. Operating system, reinstall that, and we'll be good to go, finally. Well, that was fun, and holy crap, do I need a haircut. Sorry about that. This was fun. It was a bit odd, this kind of problem. I've only seen it, like I said, once or twice before, and that's probably why it took me a bit longer to diagnose this issue than otherwise would. I'd be watching this thinking, oh, well, you should have swapped the graphics card in the lower slot before doing anything else. Well, it's easier to suggest that when you're watching it. Hindsight is always 20/20, and I really didn't think that would be the issue. Very rarely do you see software conflicts with that top 16-lane slot, and even more rare than that, I would say, do you see physical defects in those uppermost 16-lane slots that prevent cards from sending video out. What's weird though is that the motherboard tried to post, and that was what was really throwing me off. So this is a very unique problem. I understand totally why this viewer was confused and worried, but I'm glad it's fixed, and I'm glad that I could give it back to him in working order. I did tell him up front, just in full transparency here with you guys, I told him that I cannot guarantee that I will be able to fix the problem. I said, at the very least, I can look at it, I can tell you what I think it is, but I can't guarantee that I'll fix it. What I can do though is not charge you anything. Just give me a day or two to make a video about the troubleshooting process. That's all I ask. And so I appreciate this viewer for being patient with me there, and glad to deliver the good news. So I'll meet him tomorrow, drop the system back off. If you live in the Orlando, Florida area, I guess I'll go ahead and suggest this too. Depending on how well this video does, I think this could be a really cool series. A lot of people are sitting on older hardware that they wish they could upgrade but can't because of the current climate, economic climate, PC industry climate. You know, that's why I started the PC-DC series. I wanted to clean systems that people have been sitting on that they can't upgrade, just to kind of get them by for the next few months, next few years maybe, while they wait for prices to come down or for new stuff to come out that's not going to be price gouged. Yeah, maybe we can also do that with just troubleshooting issues. Like if you have a problem with your system and you live in Central Florida, or willing to drive close to me to drop your system off and then again to pick it up a few days later, I will happily check out whatever issues you have. If your system is not posting, if you get a black screen, maybe your fans don't turn on, whatever, you happen to diagnose. I can't guarantee that I'll be able to fix it, but I can at least tell you, with all the hardware that I have here, I can swap a bunch of stuff out. I can tell you what the problem is, and then that'll narrow down, you know, the choices you have in terms of RMAing, warranty claiming, or if you just want to outright buy something new to replace it, you don't have to, you know, buy tons of parts and swap them yourself. I can do that for you. So if you're interested in that, rather than emailing my wife, because she's very, very preoccupied with the PC-DC stuff right now, I would suggest that you guys tweet at me. If you just tweet at Greg Salazar YT and then send your problem, the issues you're having, in a tweet, I will see that. That's what David did here. That's how I found him. He was very quick to let me know that he lived in the area. He'd be willing to drop the system off. So if that is you and you're having an issue and you're willing to drive to me around the Orlando area in Florida, yeah, I'd like to give it a shot at least. And I won't charge you a dime. I would just, you know, hope that you'd give me a day or two to diagnose it. That's all I ask, and then I can make a video out of it, and kind of a win-win for both of us at the end of the day. So thank you all for watching this far into the video. Thank you, David, for giving me a chance to fix your system. I'm glad I was able to. It's just a coincidence that I happen to have the exact same motherboard that you have in your system here, so that worked out. But I had other B554s I would have swapped, worst case. But that was really cool, really fun to troubleshoot, and I'd like to do more of these in the future. If you guys like this video a lot, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. Consider clicking the subscribe button. That'd be cool. Thanks for listening to me ramble this far into the video. My name's Greg. Thanks for troubleshooting with me.